Hi there, YouTube. MichaelBtheGameGenie here with a video response to MichaelBtheGameGenie. Link below. Mike has done a very nice top 3 Tuesdays, or is it Thursdays? I'm not sure, but he actually asks us about our top 3 shooters. Now, the Croooow, he did a video response. I'll put a link down below to their video responses as well. The Croooow and Tony ElectricAdventures, he also did a video response. And both Tony and the Croooow, Jim, Tony, they actually mentioned a couple of games that I would have liked to mention. So they sort of stole my thunder. MichaelBtheGameGenie himself actually stole a bit from my thunder, because I was actually intending to use Gyross as well, as I've been playing that on a Famicom ever since the early 90s. I played the Japanese version more than the American version. I actually have both versions of Gyross. The Japanese version is actually the preferred version because that offers a very nice cinematic intro, which I don't think that the American version actually offers. But let's take a look at my top 3 shooters. Ask me again in a couple of days and I'll probably come up with a couple of different ones. And I'll also have some honorable mentions. So let's take a look at the first shooter. Okay, so one could argue whether or not this actually is a shooter. This is Bust-A-Move running on the 3DO, and yeah, one could argue whether or not this is a shooter, but to me it's a shooter because, as you can see, you shoot stuff up. Okay, you flick balls. It's a shooter. It's a shooter puzzle game. This game came out on the Neo Geo AES, the Neo Geo CD, the Super Nintendo. Actually, it came out on quite a few. There's portable versions, the Neo Geo Pocket. There's black and white versions on the Game Boy. There's a Game Gear version as well. Yeah, it came out on a lot of 8 and 16-bit systems, and yeah, as you can see, I'm not doing particularly well here. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people will actually regard this as a shooter, but I do. Live with it. Okay, let's go check out another shooter. So yeah, not really a shmup, but in a way it is, and it's one of my favorite puzzle games. This was playing on the 3DO. Yeah, great game. So let's take a look at number 2. And this is an arcade game, Juno First. It's quite an obscure game. This actually recently was ported, or recently, a couple of years back, it was ported to the Atari 2600, quite a good version. It's also out on the Commodore 64. I believe the MSX also has a version for it. Of course, nothing plays like the arcade version, and yeah, it's a great game. And another home console and home computer game that comes pretty close to it is actually Beam Rider. I'll show that a bit later on, I guess. But yeah, Juno First. Basically, you have to you're flying across a grid, on top of a grid, and you have to destroy enemy ship coming towards you. There's power-ups. You can pick up hostages, and basically it gets tougher and tougher each time, each level that you finish, and it's a great game. Very much worth checking out if you see it in an arcade. Don't pass it by, just go play it because it's amazing. I don't think I'll be able to really get a lot further. I believe it's game over. Okay. Yeah, that's a game, an arcade game that is actually well, I've been making a couple of videos on it, but Beam Rider. This is the ColecoVision game box. It's in very nice condition. It even comes with a free poster, but this actually is a shmup, a shooter that is amazing. It has an amazing level design. It's fast. The sounds are great. It's been ported to a lot of 8-bit systems in pretty much identical shape. I mean, all the systems, including the Atari 2600 version, they're just amazing. They look and sound the same, and even the 2600 version actually looks the same. Now, I'm not sure if this was first or the Juno first game was first, but they do share similar features, and I think the only arcade cabinet that comes close to this doesn't have any arcade original, is the Juno first game, but this is a very honorable mention. I've got this on every system out there. I'm just too lazy to get up and pick out all the boxes and loose cards, but yeah, I've got this game on every frigging system it's on. Yeah, it's one of my favorite shooters. So yeah. Game number 3, and that would be Tempest 2000 on the Atari Jaguar, or Jaguar. The very reason for me to actually get a Jaguar. Jeff Minter at its best, I guess. Psychedelic shooter mania. This actually was done with RetroArch because my Jaguar was actually acting up a bit. I couldn't get my Grabby, Teratech Grabby, to grab the RGB signal from the Jaguar, so this is actually emulation running, but it does show off how wonderful Tempest 2000 actually is. The card features also the original arcade game, and yeah, playing it with the Jaguar controller with the D-pad is not the same as the rotary knob that the arcade game uses, or is it a trackball? Analog controls, that works actually the best with this game, but all in all, it's still a pretty good game, even with a D-pad. Speaking of Tempest and Jeff Minter games, I actually got a PlayStation Vita for a variant of this game. It's TXK, which basically is a Tempest game very similar to this one on the PlayStation Vita, a must-have. And Jeff is also working on a shooter on the PlayStation VR, which I actually got a PlayStation VR for, but I'm still waiting for that to come out. So that's a great psychedelic shooter that shares some features with Tempest, but is totally different at the same time. Okay, let's go check out some honorable mentions. Now, an MSX game, honorable mention. This is actually a homebrew, but Uridium on the Commodore 64, an amazing shooter. Now, this video may not do it justice, as the smoothness of the scrolling probably will not come across due to the video encoding and the grabbing. But it's a very nice shooter taking place above hovering space stations that you have to attack, veer off the alien opponents that are flying by informations. If you hover around a certain spot too long, attack drones will fly off these spaceships, vast spaceships, space bases, in order to attack you. Once you've destroyed everything, you get the chance to land, and then yeah, you basically have to, yeah, you get to land, and then you are faced with a mini game, getting some extra bonus. Well, I'm not too good at the mini game, as you can see here. You'll fly over the level, the spaceship is utterly destroyed, and you move on to the next one. And this is actually a remake of the game, and it's running on the MSX. Now, it's also running on an MSX1 system, and it shows smooth scrolling, which actually is very hard to do on an MSX1 because it doesn't feature software scrolling or hardware scrolling. So they somehow managed to capture the gameplay, and it's actually very, very well done. Trilobyte has done this. Now, some other games on the MSX that Tony mentioned that are really worth playing are Spaceman Bow. Very expensive game these days. Then there is a whole range of Konami shooters. Gradius, also known as Nemesis, on the MSX 1 and 2. Here we have Gradius 2 on the MSX 2, also available on the TurboGrafx 16. Nemesis 3, another sequel is Salamander, which is also available on other platforms. And finally, the game parodying everything, and that's Parodius. And a vertical shooter that actually moves down, and it's androgynous. Very much worth checking out. I may actually put a snippet in here as a as an add-on bonus. You can actually see what it looks like. This is the cover. Telenet Japan 1988, and this is the first level, and it's one of those organic shooting games, and I should have set the aspect ratio correctly because it's just a 4x3 game. It only runs on MSX1. You have pickups, weapons, and you'll notice similarities with a game called Xenon, Xenon 2. Which also is available on the Mega Drive, I believe, the Genesis. Basically, this is a similar game, only you fly down, and you have to choose the correct paths. You have to fend off all sorts of critters, biological critters attacking you. I like the game quite a bit, but it's tough as nails. And yeah, as you can see, the weapons only shoot at a 30-degree angle or something, which isn't ideal, and of course you'll you lose your specials in no time because of all the baddies coming your way. Now, this game is smooth scrolling, which is only possible on MSX 2 and MSX 2 Plus, not so much on the MSX 1 system. Only recently have homebrew developers been able to do the smooth scrolling found on so many other platforms on the MSX1 system. But yeah, organic, great stuff, great game, quite pricey these days, sadly. It's one of those games that, stems from the organic shooters, but it moves downwards. So yeah, but Uridium, great game. Now, a game that is actually an amazing game, has been an amazing game, which is basically a shooter, I guess, and that's Gyross Revenge. But this is not the Atari 2600 version. No, this actually is a homebrew version for the Commodore 64, and it has a very nice orange box. And I really recommend Gyross Revenge on the Commodore 64. Another game that is actually amazing is on the NES, and that's one of the Ultra Game series, and that's Gyross. Gyross on the NES is quite different from the arcade game. I may actually put a snippet of Gyross in here as well. So Gyross by Ultra Games. This is quite different from the original, and yet very similar. Basically, this is Galaga on steroids, or Galaga on steroids, Space Invaders on steroids. In the regular Space Invader and Galaga games, you have aliens swooping down on you from the top of the screen, moving down vertically. And in this game, you basically have a perspective. Aliens, they fly, the alien ships, they fly in from the distance, they swoop in towards you. Basically, you're in this Tempest-like, it's very similar to Tempest, I believe. Tempest, Galaxian, Galaga. The difference from the original game is that it features end bosses. I'll show you one of these end bosses. This actually is the first end boss. It has green orbs. You can only destroy them when they open up. So basically you have to move around in circles, shooting at the orb enough to make it explode. Now there's 3 left, and there's 2 left, so you alternate between the 2. And then you destroy the mothership, and you move on to the next level. And of course you fly from planet to planet towards the sun, I believe. This actually should probably be called Gyross 2, because it really adds on to the original arcade game. If you're a purist, go play this game on the Commodore 64, which has a great arcade port. Okay, Gyross. I'm running this on my American NTSC Commodore, and it's a great game. It features great music, and it's super fast, and this actually is very similar to the arcade game. Yeah, it has to use sprite multiplexing because it shows a lot more sprites on screen than the Commodore 64 can actually manage. But yeah, you can see it looks really nice. It flickers it flickers just a tad, but it's very playable. Not perfect, but pretty close. The original Atari 8-bit computers, as well as the 5200, I mean, 7800 might actually also have a version for it. That's less graphically defined, but the Commodore 64 version is very close to the arcade original. There's a version of Gyross on the GBA. It has a Konami Frogger's on there, perhaps even Time Pilot, Gyross, Time Pilot, great games, but yeah, Gyross, I'm just babbling here. Another great game on the NES, which is also, I also got a box game, which is this. This is Gradius, which is a Konami shooter. Gradius 1, Gradius 2 only came out on the Famicom, I believe. Gradius 2 is even nicer because it features these great suns and fire dragons that fly towards you. Just look at this, with big suns with flames coming out of the surface. Of course, big fire dragons coming your way. This really is pushing the sprite engine of the Nintendo Entertainment System quite heavily. As you can see that yeah, the number of sprites drawn used in the dragons is actually a bit too much, so it flickers. There's a bit of slowdown, but it's a great game. Gradius, this came out in the West as well. Parodius, Gradius, great games. Definitely the Nemesis, which is synonymous to Gradius. Nemesis 2 on the MSX, which is also available on CD on the TurboGrafx 16 PC Engine. On PC Engine, it's called Gradius Gopher. That's an amazing game. Great soundtrack, great opponents. Yeah, amazing. Really should take a look at that. Perhaps I'll show you a small snippet of it. Might actually not, because Konami is really very keen on to slapping copyright on the video, so I may actually skip that. But yeah, if you have access to it, be sure to check it out. Another honorable mention, yeah, like Tony, you probably can see that my favorite genre is definitely shmups. The official Zaxxon by Sega, which is a tape for the Atari 400, 800 machines. It's a boxed Zaxxon, a great isometric. No, it's not really isometric, but a lot of people call this perspective isometric, which basically it is not. But Zaxxon, a great shooter. And finally, almost last, and the top game that I'm really big into twin stick shooters. So Robotron should be mentioned. Black Widow, Smash TV. My favorite twin stick shooter, Expendable. It's also very nice. Summer Carnival 92, Rekka, which is a competition shooter in which you have a limited amount of time to shoot as many ships and bosses as possible, by Nexatsoft. And yeah, it's fast paced. It's amazing. I may actually show a bit of footage on this as well. Okay, so here we have some gameplay of Rekka by Nexatsoft. It's fast paced, I can tell you that. Normal game, and the thing is that it really pushes the NES hardware really close, or the Famicom hardware really fast, and I really like it. And it's tough as nails. It features a whole slew of end bosses, a lot of power-ups, and of course bullet hell. Yeah, if you're into your bullet hell games, you really should give this a try. You can get reproduction cartridges. Actually, the box that I showed actually is a reproduction cart. Probably a lot of people who are into their NES collecting may already have seen that when I showed the cart, the box. But yeah, wonderful stuff. And as you can see, my extra weapons don't really help. Oh wow, yeah. Right. End boss. Oh, well, I didn't stand a chance. Game over. And of course, the game that I bought my Xbox 360 version, Xbox 360 console for, is actually Geometry Wars. And I have that on every console. I even have it on the Nintendo DS. I've got it on the GameCube, not the GameCube, the Wii. I've got it on the Xbox. I've got it on the PlayStation. I've got it on the PC. I've got it on the Xbox One. I've got it on the PlayStation 4. It's everywhere. Okay, Mark signing off. This was just a hell of a shmup craziness. Okay, Mark signing off, and I'll be back with another video soon. And if you don't know Tony Electric Adventures, go check out his videos. The Croooow, check out his videos. MichaelBtheGameGenie, check out his videos. Links down below. And yeah, I'm off. Bye.